Next, I need to discuss the software development lifecycle models that are present in the software industry. So what do we mean by the software development lifecycle models, or like we call them SDLC? The software development lifecycle is the steps that the software goes through in order to be developed. Okay, from the beginning, from having it as an idea in someone's mind until it is developed or delivered to the end customer. So why do I need to know the different SDLCs as a software tester? This is because any software tester is part of a software development team. And based on the type of the software development lifecycle that's used, the way that you test the application will be changed and influenced. So first, we will begin by the classic way of developing the software, which is the sequential development. So sequential means that steps of the software development are done as a sequence of steps. So you begin a step, when you finish it, you begin the next step. So in sequential development, we have four main steps. We have analysis. So here, like we said in the previous section, the business analyst or the product owner, but mostly here, his name is the business analyst. He analyzes the customer requirements. He writes down the documents like the SRS or the BRT. Then we design the software. Okay, so for example, we create wireframes, we create the UI design of the application. Then we have the implementation. We turn it into coding, whether it is front end, back end, or mobile development. Then we have testing. So each step begins when the previous step has ended. In sequential development, we have two main life cycles. So sequential development is considered as a category which includes two life cycles. The first one of them is called the waterfall. And its name is a waterfall because it is very similar to the waterfall. In the waterfall, the water goes down, but it doesn't go back up. So here are the steps that are included in the waterfall model. The first step is requirements. So you analyze the customer requirements and then you document them. Those requirements, like we said, can be documented in many ways, like SRS, PRD, or use cases. We will discuss types of requirements later in our course. Then we have the design. We design our application, we design the UI wireframes, we design the screens, and so on. Then the developer creates the code that makes this application usable. After this comes your role as a tester to test this application. And we will discuss the test process later. What are the steps of this step? So if you zoom in on the word testing, you will find that it is a process which includes more than one step. Then we have deployment. And the word deployment means that you deploy the application to the end customer. Okay, you publish it. So for example, I am the developer. I'm writing code on my laptop or on my machine. After I finish developing the application, I send it to the tester. I upload it to a testing server and he begins testing it. And then we publish it to the real server. So for example, when you go to google.com, this is the deployed, okay, version of Google. If you open any application on the store, this is the deployed version of the application. After this, if we face any issues in the application after it is published, after deployment, we do something that's called maintenance. Why do we call it maintenance? It is like the maintenance of any real product. So for example, your car, okay, the maintenance of it begins after you buy it. We don't send the car to maintenance if we didn't buy it yet, okay, if it's a brand new car. But after buying it and using it for a little bit of time, it will include some issues, and in this case, you send it to maintenance. So the same here. Maintenance cannot come before deployment. You must deploy the application, the users will use it, and after this, we can do maintenance activities. So this is the waterfall model. The waterfall model has its advantages and disadvantages. Its advantages include that it is very simple, okay? If you have a small team, let's say for example 3 persons, so you don't need a dedicated person for each step. The whole team can work on gathering the requirements, then the design, then development, then testing, and so on. Another good situation in which using the waterfall is very beneficiary is when you have already known requirements. Okay, so if this is a very critical application and you know your requirements from day one, So in this case, you can use the waterfall because you know the requirements and you are certain 100% of them. For example, you are building a car, you are building a bridge. You cannot come during the process and say, okay, we need to make modifications. Mostly, this will not happen. On the other hand, the bad thing about the waterfall model is that we have a principle in software testing which is called early testing saves time and money. So it is better always to test early in the life cycle. Okay, so here, like we see, software testing does not begin until we reach the end of the life cycle. So you will gather the requirements and review them. The tester is not included in this step. You will create the design. The tester is not included in creating the design or reviewing it. You will write the code. The tester will not review the components that are written using this code. And then when the application is finished, you send it to the tester and he begins testing it. What is the bad thing here? If the tester finds a defect, so let's say, for example, that this defect is based on a bad requirement. So we gathered a requirement in a wrong way. For example, the client said, I need the user to be able to sign up. And we didn't investigate or ask him many questions about it. And we assumed that the sign up method will be using the email. So we created this requirement, we wrote it down. Then we created a UI design for it, okay, in order to enter your email in the field. Then we created the appropriate code for it. We linked it to the database and everything. And after this, we found out that the client needed the sign up to be done using the phone number, okay, because this is a food delivery application and the phone number is very important. It is crucial. The email is not important. In this case, we developed a wrong code that is based on a wrong design, that is based on a wrong requirement. So here the tester finds the defect, he reports it, he says, for example, okay, I think that this is a food ordering application, it is better to sign up using the phone number. Let's ask the stakeholder, let's ask the client, and he approves that. So here we need to begin the cycle again. We need to change the requirement, and then change the design, and then change the code. But what if testing is included in the life cycle as early as possible, like the principle states? In this case, if testing is included from the requirements, once we gather a wrong requirement that includes ambiguity or a contradiction, in this case, the tester will find the defect and we will not go through the rest of the process. Okay, we will stop at this point and the cost of fixing the defect will be very low. So this is the waterfall model. Some companies are still applying it even though they say they don't. So in waterfall model, also you as a software tester might notice that sometimes you don't have many tasks to work on because we are gathering requirements, we are designing, we are developing, you don't have to do anything. And in other days, you have a very much amount of work to be done. Okay, now we need to test, we need to deliver as fast as possible. So sometimes it is good for freelancers to work on this model. Okay, so if you are working on a project, a freelance project, okay, once the client finishes his work, he gives you the application and you work on it. But if you work as a full-time tester, it is not the best model to use in software testing.